in the beginning.
All right, we are recording to the cloud, so we'll be able to pull it from the KW site. We're using Keller Williams Zoom link for this, so we'll be able to get everything we need. Welcome, everyone. I'm going to let Buffy do her introductions. I'm just kind of your admin guy for the videos and for letting people in and all that kind of stuff. I'm going to mute myself here in a minute.
He's going to run upstairs and save me if I need help with running.
I'm going to go ahead and mute everybody across the board for just this moment and let Buffy kind of take over. So welcome. She is excited about this. I'm excited for her, and this is a passion of hers. Take it away, sweetheart.
All right. So some of you have known me for a long time. Some of you have only known me recently, and some of you know me in a different role than what I have been for the past 15 years. So now, obviously, if you know me from real estate, I have previously, before real estate, spent over 15 years in the classroom as a teacher and also as a tutor specifically for dyslexia. So dyslexia is like my passion. It's I could talk for hours and hours, but I'm going to try to organize what I'm talking about tonight into kind of like 3 categories. And if we run out of time with any of it, I'm more than happy to talk with anyone later who may want to talk more or have questions. I'm happy to do it in person next Thursday, whatever we need to do. When I was a classroom teacher, I was trained in a system that's called Orton Gillingham, which is kind of like the Cadillac system of dyslexia. So you may have heard that term before, you may not. It's just the brand of dyslexia intervention. It's like the people who discovered it, researched it, wrote the program, wrote the curriculum on it. So that's how I was trained. There are 2 main systems in Indiana that I know of that are highly recommended. One is Barton and the other is Orton Gillingham. I have been trained in both, but my certification is Orton Gillingham. I am not certified in Barton, although I have tutored in it for 3 years now. Basically, I'm not certified because they want you to pay money to be certified so that you can say you're certified. So that's why I haven't been. When I was a classroom teacher, I became known as the teacher that pretty much wanted all of the kids that struggled. So at one point in a classroom of 19 to 21 kids, I would have 11 that would have like IEPs or specialty diagnoses, and they would all end up in my classroom, and I would happily take all of them because I found out very quickly that the kids who have been diagnosed or struggle are the ones who work the hardest. All they need is someone who can believe in them, and then they are the rock stars. They will give me a kid with a learning disability any day over a regular kid because they are the ones that just make your heart smile because they work harder than anyone else. And so with how I've broken down tonight, the first section that I'm just going to kind of whiz through real quick is for just general tips and strategies for any kid anywhere. They do not have to struggle with anything just to know if you're trying to do e-learning at home. These are some things that you need to know about your kid that might help you at home. The second section will be on, if I can get to all of this, ADHD and some things and resources for ADHD or ADD. And then I'm saving the end for like specific talk about dyslexia. I have no idea what I can get through tonight, so I'm going to talk super, super fast. And then you guys can just like take notes and ask me anything you want later, and then we'll just see what we can get through. So first of all, for general tips and strategies for your kids, in order for a kid to learn, they have to have 3 main things. They have to be physically calm, they have to be emotionally connected, and they have to have an organized brain. If you are missing any of those 3, then it's going to be a struggle for them to learn. So physically calm might mean that they just need to get some energy out. They might need to be physically tired enough to be able to sit and be calm. If they're all pent up, they're not going to be in a good position to learn. Next, they need to be emotionally connected. They have to have rapport with whoever there is teaching them. So whether you as the parent or them as the teacher, if they feel that their teacher is picking on them or if they feel that someone doesn't like them, they are not going to learn. They are going to come into the classroom with their guard up and not be prepared to learn. Lastly, they need an organized brain. This is what most kids with if you're like, does my kid have ADHD? This is what they struggle with. It's like they have all the information there. They are super, super smart, but it's like a box that has just a bunch of files and papers thrown in there. And in order for them to retrieve the information, it's like them digging through the box to find that one phone number that they needed to remember or that one word of how to spell it. It's all there. They remember it all. They just can't pull it out quickly enough, usually for a teacher for what you want them to do. You need to know that your kid is not trying to frustrate you. They are not trying intentionally to drive you crazy. Okay, so give them a little grace with that. They're not trying. They just need some help with how to organize their brain, how to organize their time, and some things that they can do so that they don't frustrate you and so that they're ready to learn what you're trying to teach them or their teachers are trying to teach them. One thing that has had a huge impact on why we have a lot more kids that struggle with an organized brain actually has to do with car seats. This was taught to me by a physical occupational therapist. I do not have that certification, so I cannot diagnose anything, but everything she said was fascinating. But she said basically when kids were little, that one of the very important things that you learn about is like the tummy time, right? Like they need to be on their tummy, they need to be picking up their head, they need to be looking around, okay? It's all has to do with their brain development. Yes, Roger?
You need to look at the camera, honey, and quit looking off to the side. You're not looking at your camera. You're looking at your Zoom screen of where everybody is. You need to engage front facing. We're getting lost a little bit. Just saying. Keep going.
I'll try to move you over. Is that better? Okay. So car seats. What's happened is in olden days when you didn't put your kids in car seats and you just like stood up in the back of your car or you just buckled them in the back of the seat, the kids as they were little were looking around at everything going by in the car. Now we've become ultra safe and we put our kids in car seats from the time they're babies and it holds their head perfectly still and straight like this, which actually causes a lot of issues with ADHD because they have not developed the right stuff going to their brain because they need to move around more. Okay, so one thing I would just say, if you have any new moms or anybody that you know that has an infant, please, please, please keep them in the car seat when they're in the car, but don't take the car seat out and carry it into the grocery store. Take the kid physically out of their car seat and hold them on your hip and walk them in with you or put them in the shopping cart so that they can look around because you do not want them to be like this all the time or it's going to lead to problems later. Okay, so another thing that is really, really horrible causing issues because ADHD and dyslexia are both brain neurological disorders. You can cause an actual addiction with phones and tablets. So as much technology as in schools out there, try to keep technology to the school and not at home. I know it's really hard because it's really easy to just give them a tablet and let them go, but a tablet can actually make the symptoms worse because it's messing with their dopamine hits, which basically is that reward system. Like you do something, you get a reward. That's all the games are now, and even the learning games that are good for them, it's still causing a dopamine hit in their brain, and that's further complicating the ADHD symptoms. Okay, so try to keep them off tablets and off phones at home as much as possible. Other things that are just kind of in general, these just go for anyone, is be really careful with food dye, especially red food dye. Sugar and caffeine, which everybody knows is not good for you in general, but especially with little people, you really need to be careful. Like I can literally give Leon one piece of candy and he will go nuts for like the next 3 hours. So it has a whole different effect on them than it does you as an adult with an adult-sized body. They will need lots of actual physical activity and time outside. Okay, I don't care if it's freezing. I don't care if it's 10 degrees outside. Send them outside. It will help them. They can breathe, something about breathing in the fresh air and being able to focus. If I would not ever have a kid come home from school and sit right down and have to do their homework right then and there. It's not going to work out in your favor or in their favor. So when your kid gets off the bus and gets home, send them outside, get them exercise, get them off the tablets, let them be outside playing around with unstructured play. Here's the other thing, kids don't know how to play anymore. You may actually have to teach your child how to play, which seems like a crazy concept, but it's actually something that you learn. And so if they have not had enough experience with playing without something told them how to play, they may not know how to play. When we got Leon from China, we had to teach him how to play because he had been institutionalized and they never interacted. They didn't interact with other kids. They were, kept in cribs all day. So they didn't ever learn the skills of how to play. So you may have to actually show your child how to play with things that aren't electronic, where they might be super, super good on an iPad or a tablet, but they might not have any idea how to keep themselves entertained. Okay, so you might have to show them how to have imaginative play. You might have to read a book that's a fun book and then act out the story or something like that. You might have to get them around other kids who know how to play, but they need to be able to use their imagination. They need to be able to know how to do things that aren't directed toward them. Yes, Legos would be great. As well as, I lost my train of thought. Oh well, I'll move on. If I think of it, I'll come back to it. I told you I was talking fast. Okay, another thing is school versus home behavior. So you may hear from a child's teacher that they are wonderful at school and that they are amazing at school. And then they come home and they turn into a rotten, just overexhausted child who cannot handle any more instruction. They've got a limit of how much they can sit still and be good and follow directions, and at some point they're just out. So a lot of times you'll either have good behavior at home and bad behavior at school, or you'll have good behavior at school and bad behavior at home. That's completely normal because just think about it, they've used up 8 hours of concentration of trying to not get in trouble and listen to their teacher. The last thing they want to do when they get home is try to not get in trouble and listen to you too. So think about for us, how tiring it is if we go to something that's like a meeting or all-day conference or something, just how exhausted you are at the end of the day and you've done nothing but sit there and listen and take in information. But at the end of it, you're like, I'm done. I am so tired. That's how they feel when they get home. You might feel like this after listening to me talk very fast for the next, 30 minutes or whatever. Okay. Another thing is sensory overload. Okay, they might need some downtime. They might need some pressure. Okay, this is going to that physically calm. One thing you can do if your kid is kind of wild or all over the place or just kind of has a, the deer in the headlights kind of look, stand behind them and press down on their shoulders. It will physically calm them down and it will make them take a deep breath. Okay, so they just need to be physically calm. That's one really easy way to do it. Just go behind their shoulders, press straight down to physically calm them down. Okay, know your child's best working time and their learning style. The more styles you can appeal to, the better they'll remember. Okay, some kids are really good in the morning and they're exhausted at the end of the day or in the afternoon. It says my internet connection is on. So you need to structure.
Sorry, my system completely froze. Is everybody still on?
Yeah.
Everybody's still there? Everybody
there's
give me a
two
thumbs
of
up.
you. Look, there's a Roger down there and a Roger
I'm
up here.
still here.
Okay, good. I don't know what happened with my system as the admin, but she's the co-host, so everything's still good. Okay, good. I'm ready to
Okay.
write down and see what I can do. Sorry.
Yeah, I just kicked you out.
That's fine.
So anyway,
Hey,
okay. So if they are better with homework in the morning, then alter your schedule and get up a little earlier or do homework in the morning before they get on the bus. Don't make them do it at the end of the day if that's not their, best suited time. Learning style. Kids are really, really different with how they learn. Some kids learn by listening. Other kids learn by seeing. Other kids have to be moving while they learn. Okay, the more that you can combine together, then the better off they're going to remember it. So if you're practicing spelling, then you want to have them see it, have them touch it, have them hear it, and do all three at the same time. So it's making those neural pathways strong to get to their brain. Okay. Another thing for just organization, routines, checklists, okay, and simplify the number of choices to prevent them from getting overloaded. Okay. You may think you're giving them freedom, but it's actually too much overwhelm for them. So they may just need, you can choose choice 1 or choice 2, not you can choose to do anything you want. Like, here, play, go, you can go do this, and this. Too many choices. 2, this one or this one. It will help them prevent overload, and checklist will help them focus on one thing at a time, depending on what age of a kid that we're talking about. Okay, also tiny habits. So instead of expecting them to clean your room or their room the way that you want them to clean their room, then you might want to start with very small. So the idea of cleaning their room might be way too overwhelming because they don't even know where to start. So you have to help them just with the first step of where to start. Even today, for example, Leon had to fold and put away a big basket of laundry. He's 6, right? He knows how to fold, he knows how to put away, but it was way too overwhelming. He didn't know where to start. So he was about on a breakdown. So I had to make it smaller. I had to say, hey, first thing I want you to do is put your pants in a pile, your shirts in a pile, and your pajamas in a pile. And then as soon as he did that, that was the one little help that he needed. Then he went to town. He got all of it done. I didn't even have to intervene anymore. You just may have to help with one small how to get started so it doesn't feel overwhelming. Okay, and then developmentally appropriate. Don't expect them to do something that they're not ready for. A 3rd grader has a different thing that they're ready for than a 1st grader. A 5th grader, they're all different stages and their brain grows at different rates. So be careful of what you're expecting from them that they may not be ready for yet. And just as kind of a quick side note, you are most impulsive because your brain is growing the most when you are 17 and when you are 5. Okay, so if you have super, super impulsive behaviors happening, those are the 2 times where your brain is growing the most. And you can sometimes actually see it because they'll be fine, and then all of a sudden they just won't be fine anymore. And you're like, where is this kid? What has happened with this kid? They were fine, last year, and now they're doing all sorts of crazy things that they weren't doing before. It might be because their brain is growing, and maybe it just hasn't caught up yet. Okay. 3 more on this, and then I'm going to run out of time. Okay, so water. Water and snacks. You have to feed your kid and you have to give them water. Lots of water and lots of snacks if you want them to learn. Okay, so I am all about making sure that they're not sugary snacks, they're not have lots of dye in them snacks, but they actually, just think, if you're really tired and you're at a meeting and you grab a granola bar, you grab a drink of water, you walk around a little bit, it helps you wake up your brain. Your kid might need that too. So if they're trying to learn something, give them water, give them snacks, give them exercise. Okay, 2 more things. As much as possible, you want to do pre-instruction rather than post-reaction. Okay, so we're all tired, right? But what we want to do is we just want to give them the instruction, and then we react when they don't do what we wanted them to do in the first place, and then it blows up from there. I'm a parent. I do it. I know this, and I still do it. Okay, what's so much better is, as much as possible, do more on the pre side. As you're giving them that instruction, you're wanting them to repeat it back, to model it or show them or give them examples of what you want them to do or exactly what you want them to do, rather than you just give the instruction and then you react later why they didn't do it the way that you wanted them. Okay. So same thing with discipline. You're going to set up the expectation and then follow through. It takes all of the anger and the reaction out of it. It's very simple. That's how I do my classroom management in my class. I just say, this is what's going to happen. You can choose this or you can choose this. If you choose this, XYZ will happen. If you choose this, ABC will happen. It's your choice, but then all I'm doing is following through with what I said was going to happen. There's no emotion involved. There's no need to raise my voice or be upset. I can just say, oh, which choice did you make? You chose A? Okay, so what's going to happen next? What did I say was going to happen? And then they tell me, and they know exactly what to expect because you told them what was going to happen. So they always have a choice of a good choice or a bad choice, and they know what's going to happen after they choose to make that choice. And sometimes they honestly are going to make the bad choice just because they want to see if you're going to follow through with what you said it was going to be. So be careful when you tell them what's going to happen, that it's actually something that you're going to follow through with. So don't tell someone they're going to be grounded for a week, or they're not going to be able to go to their friend's house, or something that's going to punish you instead of them. So make sure that you're really careful if you're giving someone consequences of what's going to happen, that it's something that you can easily follow through with. Okay, so that's the first section of what can help with regular any kid. So any questions before I move on to next section? Okay, so the next section I want to focus on is the ADD and ADHD section. I have not had as much training, sorry, I'm messing this up, with ADHD as I have with, sorry, I'm trying to like Roger left, so now I'm admitting people in and looking all around. So anyway, I've not had as much training with ADD and ADHD. It's kind of just been more trial and error from having a lot of kids with different symptoms in my class. And a lot of times, if you have a diagnosis of dyslexia or sensory processing or anything like that, it's going to go hand in hand with one of the others. So it's a very high rate that if you have one, you're going to have another one as well. So what I would like to do, if I can make this work, is I have a video that just kind of gives you an example. It's from the 80s, so there's some great shoulder pads and like great hair going on. But it gives you some insight into what the kid is feeling like in a classroom, and as you as a parent, what it's like for them on the ADHD level. So if you want to watch the whole video, I'm just going to show you like 2 minutes of it. But it's called Fat City, and you can find it on YouTube. There's actually two of them. So FAT City is what you want to look for in YouTube if you want to watch the whole thing. So I'm going to see if I can figure out how to do this.
Sorry, I'm no longer an admin. I'm just a joiner. So honey,
okay, so I think I can hit, I think I have to open it up. I'm going to try to share my screen.
Share your screen because you should be the host now.
All right.
Okay,
can you
yes,
all
can
see the nice shoulder pads and good 80s hair? All right, I'm going to play it real quick and just tell me if you can hear the audio on it.
Nobody's going to get hurt, but you will get a chance to see what it's like to be a learning disabled child. What color is the booklet, Carol?
Blue.
What's it say in the front of the booklet, Kit?
Fat City.
What's it stand for, Carolyn? What does it stand for, Carolyn?
I don't know.
What does it? It says at the bottom of the book. What's it stand for, Maria?
Frustration, anxiety, and tension.
Frustration, anxiety, and tension. What kind of animal's top of the page, Kara?
Bird.
Turn to the next page. What color's the first page, Jane?
Blue.
What does it say in the first page, Carol? The first page, Carol. Earth to Carol, come in, please. The first page. Earth to Carol, come in, please. Raise your hand if you thought that was funny. Yeah, everybody likes that except who? Except Carol. Anytime you as a teacher or a parent decide to use sarcasm with kids, understand that you created a victim. Now that little throwaway line that I threw at Carol, I will forget within 5 minutes, you will forget within 5 minutes, but it's very likely to stay with Carol for the rest of the day. Those little throwaway sarcasms we use. Jody, what color's the print in the first page?
Black.
What does it say, Lee?
Activity 1.
Was that what it says, Stephanie?
Yes.
Turn to the next page. What color's the next page, Lee?
Yellow.
What kind of animal is top of that page, Jody?
Tiger.
It's not a tiger. Carol, what kind of animal is top of that page?
It's a cat.
It's a cat. Famous story with a cat in it, Maria. Famous story with a cat in it. Famous story with a cat in it, Maria. Famous story with a cat in it. Give me one famous story with a cat in it, Maria. Okay, does anxiety affect performance? Does anxiety affect performance? Of course it does. According to this, Maria doesn't know one story with a cat in it. Give Maria a call tomorrow, she'll give you 30 of them. But in this situation, with the anxiety we've created already, with the anxiety that we've created in a short period of time, Maria's unable to get that information out. Famous story with the cat in it, Carolyn.
3 little kittens.
Famous story with the cat in it, Debbie.
Garfield.
Famous story with the cat in it, Car.
Incredible Journey.
Famous story with the cat in it, Kelly. Melissa? Karen? Kim? Merritt? Okay, let's take a look at what's happened now. I accepted the answer, I don't know, from Kelly. What were the next 4 answers that I got in a row? I don't know. See, we have to really put this under a microscope and look at this. You people have been learning disabled now for 6 minutes, and many of you have quit. Not 6 years, not 16 years, the way the LD child lives, but 6 minutes. And many of you, once I began accepting the answer, I don't know, how many of you decided if he calls on me, I'm going to say I don't know? Raise your hands. Yeah. Many of you have decided if he's going to accept I don't know as an answer, I'm going to stop trying to think of a response and I'll just say I don't know. Okay, Jody, what kind of animal is that? Top of the page again?
Cat.
Down below, what kind of animal is that? Lee?
Duck.
Stephanie, what kind of noise did a duck make?
Quack.
Famous story of the duck in it, Nancy? Famous story of the duck in it, Karen? You were ready for me, weren't you, Nancy? Famous story of the duck in it, Karen? Famous story with the duck in it, come on. Famous story with the duck in it. One famous story with the duck in it, Karen.
I can't think
famous
of a
story with the
story.
duck in it. It doesn't take a lot of thought, Karen. Famous story with the duck in it. One famous story with the duck in it. Nancy knew one.
Yeah, well, Nancy's better than I am because I can't think of a
Debbie,
story
famous
with
story
a
with the duck in it.
Donald
Famous story with
It's a cartoon.
famous story with the duck in it, Car.
Make way for Duck.
Famous story with the duck in it, Kelly.
I was going to say Donald Duck.
Oh, she took my answer. Don't you love it? Melissa, famous story with the duck in it. Turn the page. Karen, what kind of animal is that? Top of the page. I'm sorry? A pig. What kind of noise did a pig make, Kim? Famous story with the pig in it, Merritt. Famous story with the pig in it, Merritt. Famous story with the pig in it, Paula. Down below, what kind of animal is that, Car?
Swan.
What kind of noise did it make, Debbie? Okay, see, what you've got to see sometime is you've got to see Fat City from where I'm standing. Because I've got 15 people looking up at me, and I say, what kind of noise does a swan make? And everybody takes a sudden interest in their shoes. They look down and okay, they're both on there. In other words, what happens is, after 9 minutes of a learning disability, you people have already bought into one of the credos that controls the life of the LD child, which is this. If I can't see the teacher can't see me. And so what you do is you look away, because we all know that it is the human reaction to anxiety. The first human reaction to anxiety is to look away from the source of the anxiety. And yet, what's the first thing we say to kids when we yell at them? You look at me while I'm yelling at you. You look at me while I'm spoiling your life. There are so many things we do as parents and teachers that don't make any sense. How many people here insist that kids look at them when we yell at them? I do all the time, and it makes absolutely no sense, and it's contrary to everything we know about the human reaction to anxiety.
All right, so I'm going to stop it there. I watched that whole thing when I was a brand new teacher, 20-some years ago now, and that has stuck with me this long. The lessons that I learned from watching that have stayed with me my entire teaching career. So it is entirely worth your time I think if you have the time, oh, sorry, I'm trying to get out of it. There we go. Okay. Entirely worth your time to watch the movie. It's about an hour long if you want to see all of it. Okay. And it helps you understand what a normal pace is like for them. When you think you're talking at a normal rate of speed, how they're actually perceiving how you're speaking to them. Okay. Let me get back to my, now I lost my notes. I'm a hot mess today. Okay, here we go. Okay, so just some quick kind of things. Again, ADHD, a lot of the things that I talked about in the first part will apply to ADHD. Roger is recording this if you came in late, so you can watch the first part of just some of those general tips and tricks that will help if your child does have ADHD. Here are a couple of other things to just kind of remember or possibly know that teachers know, but maybe parents don't. Sometimes a kid that has ADD or ADHD actually struggles with executive functions more so than ADD or ADHD. So that might be something that you, hold on, Raj, that you want to look up or that you want to research on. There's some really great books on there. A site that is very helpful is just Teachers Pay Teachers. It's a lot of games and things that you can do with your kid, and you can just type in executive functions in Teachers Pay Teachers and pay $1 or $2 for some different games that you can play with your kids that's going to help them focus on some of the things that they may struggle with. Executive functions are things like being able to show self-control, being able to have inhibition of knowing when something is appropriate. It's okay to eat a snack or be out of your seat this time. It's not okay to get out of your seat or get a snack at this time, knowing the difference of what those situations are. Starting a task, how to get started, get that motor going, how to organize things. Those are all executive functions that can help an ADD kid or an ADHD kid make their life a little bit easier, especially if you know which ones they struggle with. And there's plenty of research and stuff out there. So just kind of helping with some of that. Again, watching the video, you see what they feel like when their teacher is talking to them, if their teacher doesn't understand their point of view. You want a teacher who hopefully is willing to learn and learn with your kid, but you need to be the advocate for your child. So you are the one who knows your child the best. You want your teacher on your side. You don't want it to be you versus the teacher, but you do want to advocate for your child. Some things that will be helpful to remember. You got to remember, a teacher's got 20 some kids in their classroom. So whatever special modifications that you want a teacher to do, try to have it be something that doesn't impact the rest of the class or can apply to all of the class. One thing that I found with my super wiggly kids was stretchy bands help. If you give them a regular rubber band, they're gonna shoot it at their classmates. That's just what they're gonna do with it. But if you get from like physical therapy or from the gym, those stretchy bands that come in different weights, you know what I'm talking about? They're like this thick, and you put it around their desk, they can kick their feet in it, and it gives their body something to do without being a distraction to the class. So you could offer to put that on, bring that in and have that be on your kid's seat, or offer to purchase it for the whole class or bring them in for the whole class. Because if the kids see one kid has something or gets to do something, then all the other kids want to do it too. They'll just think that it's cool. So wiggle seats, things like that. If they have sensory things, they might need a piece of chewing gum in their mouth. So you might need to get special permission for them to be able to have a piece of chewing gum, which is actually going to help them focus because it's giving their muscles something to do. Roger fidgets with his ring constantly, all the time. Fidget spinners, no fidget spinners. No poppets, none of those toy-like things. You just need them to have a small amount of movement to help them focus. If you're at home, If they're doing homework, they may actually need some background music. That I use music in my classroom as a way to control their volume. So it was a very easy thing. I would always play like classical music or something very soothing, but the rule was your voice has to be where I can hear the music. If I can't hear the music, then you're too loud. If I can hear the music, you're all good. So you can use music in your class in your house as a way of controlling the volume level, and it will actually help your kids focus if they struggle with ADHD, help them focus on their homework. Okay.
I never had a diagnosis. Real quick, guys, I'm 49 years old. They did not have the ADHD diagnosis when I was a kid. I'm a musician, I'm a singer. I learned coping mechanisms early on of what I found out would be a good thing for me. If I turned music on when I was doing homework, my parents would want to yell at me because I would crank it up a little bit because I couldn't hear them, but I could focus on what I was doing. Music is a huge thing. It will also help them in their memorization. If they're learning music and learning lyrics and things like that, it will help. I'm a prime example. Again, what she talks about the fidget spinners, things like that, get a small silicone ring and just let them fidget right here. It's isolated. This is something I do every day. If you know me from work, you've known I used to play music all the time. It's something that Buffy has definitely pushed in our house and with her class. And this is something that, as you know, if you have questions and you missed the beginning real quick, I will give you Buffy's number, or she will, or you can text me at any time if you have my number and get any information you need, and we'll get you connected.
Okay. Another thing that can help at home, if you have kids who struggle with getting things done in the time that you want them to get done, setting a timer may not always work because, especially if they're small, they don't understand what the timer's actually doing. They have these wonderful things that are like color-coded time clocks where they actually see the time disappearing. So you set the timer and it's green, right? And then they see that amount of color disappearing. So they have, if they're small and they don't know how to tell time yet, they can see how much time they have left because their time is actually going away. So you may need to look at that kind of a time clock if you have little ones, so they understand if they're waiting for something, how much time that actually is. Kids have no idea how long time is because we're horrible about telling. Think about it. 2 minutes till we get in the car, or 5 minutes till we get into bed, and then what, 35 minutes later? It's no wonder they don't have any concept of how long 5 minutes is, because depending on how we say it, 5 minutes could be 30 seconds, or 5 minutes could be 45 minutes later. So something that actually shows them how much time is 5 minutes, how much time is 15 minutes. When you have 10 minutes to do this task, how much time is that actually going to be? If you just say you have 10 minutes to do this, well, they might burst into instant tears because they don't know how long 10 minutes is. They don't know if that means they have time to run to their room and back, and that's 10 minutes or not. So something that's physically going to show them how long a task is. Let's see. One thing that you'll talk about with like executive functions are kind of landing places or anchor points. So instead of, if they struggle getting out the door to get on the bus in time, you may need like a checklist or a landing place that has everything that they need to get out the door that day. If they struggle getting ready in the morning, it may be that you have to do some things the night before to get them ready so that they know, or a checklist on their mirror that you do this first, this next, and picture something like it's brush your teeth, then it's get dressed, then it's do this, and you have this much time to do it. So things that are going to break it down and give them one thing to focus on at the time. We're really bad about giving way too many expectations and instructions instead of just one. And if they're little, you have to actually train their brain to handle being able to remember more than 1 or 2 step directions. So you may want to give one direction and then say, come back to me when you have that done. Great, high five. Give them a dopamine hit of encouragement. Okay, here's your next task. Task 2. All right, come back, high five. Okay, this time I'm going to make it harder. I'm going to give you 2 things to do. You have to do 2 things to do before you come back for your high five. Something like that. You just got to train them to be able to handle more and more and more as you go on. Okay, other things.
Speaking of, tell our
repetition.
6-year-old to come down and see me real quick.
Leanne, go see Daddy downstairs, please. Okay. Repetition. They are going to have to do things over and over and over again. It is not their fault that if you tell them 2 times that they can't remember what you said. Okay. As much as we would like for them to be perfect, you are going to have to repeat yourself over and over and over again. Okay. Especially if they struggle with any sort of learning disability. Remember, these are brain diagnosis. These are neurological disorders. So your job is to create that neural pathway to make it easier for them to retrieve that information. So repetition over and over and over again. So don't say, how many times do I have to tell you this? Or I just told you this yesterday, or we just went over this 5 minutes ago. I can't believe you forgot already. It's repetition, repetition, repetition. Tell yourself that, tell them that, okay? And work on only one thing at a time, okay? And again, patience and understanding. They are not trying to annoy you, I promise, okay? Other things, declutter, simplify, workspace and tasks, okay? Just find the smallest thing that they can do to feel success. A lot of times if they have a learning diagnosis or a learning disability, they already feel like they're not measuring up or they're not good enough or they're not smart. So they need the wins. So find the smallest thing that they can do where you can praise the dickens out of it because they need the extra encouragement. They need to be able to build up their stamina to be able to handle harder and harder things. And they need a lot of wins to be able to get up there to handle those harder things. Okay, like you saw in the video, one of the worst things that you can do is make your child sit or stand still to listen to you or to answer you. Okay, I promise they can actually hear you. They can actually understand the direction if they are doing this. If they are moving around and they don't look like they're listening at all, you would be surprised how many kids can actually hang upside down off the back of their chair and still be able to give you an exact perfect answer to whatever it was that you were doing. It's just part of their coping mechanism. As adults, like Roger was talking about, we learn a lot of ways to deal with the things that cause us stress or frustration or anxiety. We know when we need to go to the gym, take a walk, go see a girlfriend, call someone. We know what we need to do to make ourselves feel better. A kid doesn't. You have to help them learn what makes them feel better. And one of the things that is the best thing for their brain is spinning and being upside down. So if they have a specifically hard task or homework assignment that they need to do, I highly, highly recommend that you do what I call bats and butterflies. So first they hang upside down like a bat for 60 seconds, and then they turn in a circle, spinning around. If they can do both at the same time, even better. So my class as a teacher looked ridiculous before every class because every kid would, or before every test, because every kid would be hanging upside down with their heads between their legs, holding onto the back of their knees, spinning around in the circle. You would be amazed at how much that helps their focus and their concentration. Do not make them stand still or sit still to listen to you or to do their homework. They don't need to. They would probably prefer to stand up or run around the table in between each problem that they're doing, which is completely fine. If you've got 10 problems to do that are math problems, do one problem, run around the table, do the second problem, run around the table. They're still getting it done. They're just getting some of the things that they need their body to understand, and that's going to help them. Teachers sometimes don't understand this, especially if they're either a new teacher or if they've been teaching for a really, really long time and they want things a certain way, the way that it's always been. those are the two usual problem teachers that I've seen in my experience as a teacher. The teachers who are older and have been doing it for a long time, they taught kids from a different generation that didn't have the car seats issue and the technology issue that kids today have. Newer teachers just are inexperienced and they just don't know what they don't know. So you can help your teachers by helping say some things that are helpful to your child. If your child needs to calm down, things like heavy work, like, hey, could they help you by picking up, their desk, or by wiping off the whiteboard, or, something that would be helpful in the classroom, but would also get some energy out. One thing that my class would do is, like, the kids that needed it, I would give them a stack of heavy books and they would just carry the heavy books from one class to the other. Like if they needed to go to art, if they needed to go to music, they would just imagine like a stack of hymnals or dictionaries. And they didn't know why they were doing it, but I knew it was what their bodies needed to keep them contained and calm down. So they can just carry a stack of dictionaries around your house and you'll be surprised how much help that will be to their bodies to get them physically calm and ready to learn. Okay, I have some other resources and things that I will be happy to send you at the end of this. I think if I were to try to put it in a chat, I would like get myself all mixed up and not be able to get back to where I want to go. So here's our dilemma right now. I have my favorite topic, which is dyslexia, and we have about 8 minutes left, and it's going to probably kick us off the Zoom call. So I can talk about dyslexia very quickly on what it is and what it is not in 8 minutes, or I can stop, we can reconvene, and I can talk about dyslexia next week, and I can just use question and answer time for the last 8 minutes. You tell me how you want to spend the last 8 minutes.
If you can go more into dyslexia, I would like you to do a wider range of it next week, but that's just mine.
Okay, because I can talk for like 2 hours straight on just dyslexia. What it is, what it's not, what the indicators and signs are, what you may think it is, and what signs to watch for in your child. I can go through all of that, but it's going to be really hard to do that in 8 minutes. So why don't I table that for next week? And I'm happy to be do it in person or on Zoom again next week. Is fine with me. If you guys want to come back, I'm happy to talk more and give you an example of what tutoring with dyslexia actually looks like so that you understand what kind of therapy and why that helps, why that will help your child's brain. Okay, so we're going to table dyslexia till next week is what I got from the general consensus. So we've got about 5-6 minutes. Do you have any questions from just what we talked about with ADHD and regular general tips and tricks? Any questions or anything? Is that helpful? I know I talk a lot.
That video was very eye-opening. If you could put that link at the end, I'd appreciate that. I'd love to watch the whole thing.
All right, let me see. I can just tell you what to search for on YouTube. It's called FAT, F-A-T, City, and it stands for Frustration, Anxiety, and Tension. And there's 2 videos. They're both about an hour long. I don't know if they're both on YouTube, but I know the one that I showed you is. And I also have a couple of ADHD and ADD sites that are helpful. So I will stick those into like an email and just send them out or put them back in my personal post on my page of just, hey, here are some sites that can help you some things that I talked about today. So, all right, well, I appreciate you guys being here. And for those who want, I'll be happy to talk more next week. So thanks, guys.
Thank you, Buffy. It was awesome.
All right,
Great job.
you're welcome. Bye.